Hello everyone, I'm a youth ambassador at the social enterprise company Attentive. I'm joined today with Laurel and Shanoa, two other youth ambassadors, and we've also got Habibah, who is another youth ambassador who's new to chess as well. So she's joining us today to be coached and mentored by Montell. And today we're just going to be teaching her the basics, introducing her to everything like we did for myself. So how is everyone?
Hi, I'm great, thank you. How are all you?
Good, thank you.
Welcome, Habibah.
Hi.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. So first of all, we have a chessboard. I'm going to ask Mia if you can talk us through which way the board goes and why it goes a certain way.
So the board needs to go with A1 in the bottom left corner, just so that everyone kind of can say where the pieces are going to go with the letters and the numbers. There's the letters on the bottom, the numbers going up the side, and that gives it like the context of the grid, so you can say where the pieces are going.
Excellent. Anybody got anything to add to that? No? Well, that's a great explanation. The board is like a map. When you're reading the game, you will talk about what a player did in a certain game, and they will refer to people moving in certain squares. If the board is the wrong way round, it might be the wrong piece that you're referring to moving in the wrong piece. So it's like a map. Okay, yeah. Now let's go into what they're actually called. Let's start off with the one in the bottom corner. Can you all see that piece here?
Yep.
Okay. Mia, what's the name of it and what are they all worth?
So that one that you're on at the moment, it's technically called the rook, but a lot of people call it the castle just because it looks like a castle. And that one's worth 5, I think. And then next to that, knight, which is worth 3.
What else do people call it?
Some people call it a horse.
Great. Okay. Next to that.
Next to that is the bishop, which is worth 3.5. I remember you saying that sometimes people just say it's worth 3, but it's actually worth 3.5 to play properly.
Yeah, and I'll explain why in a moment. Next to that.
Next to that is the queen, and she's worth 9.
Excellent. Next to that.
That one's the king, and I've got down here that we kind of said it's like priceless. It doesn't have an amount of points. It's just the most important one there.
Yes, absolutely right. And then what goes next to the king?
There's another bishop because you need to replicate the 4 on the left to the 4 on the right.
Yeah, excellent. So you've explained that. Then what do you do after you've done your pieces?
Once you've checked that yours are all in the right place,
yeah,
you need to check your opponents as well to make sure that they've got theirs in the right order on their side.
Excellent. Now, how do you know where to put the queen and the king?
Is it because if you've got the white queen, it goes on the white square?
Yes. And if you've got the black queen, where does that go?
It goes on the black square.
Excellent. Habibah, any questions so far?
No, I think apart from the row above, what are they?
Yes, next one.
Well, they are the they're only worth 1 point, and I think they're more just for like to defend the more important ones and to sort of sacrifice when you want to attack for something else.
Okay.
Can I just go through to make sure that I know?
Yeah.
So in A1 at the bottom, so it's the rook or the castle, so that's 5 points. Then it's the knight, 3 points.
Yeah.
Bishop, which is 3.5.
Yeah.
Then we have the queen, which is 9, and the king, which is priceless, and then the bishop, the knight, and the rook again.
Yeah.
And then above is the pawn, and they're all 1.
Yeah, excellent. Okay.
Well
done. And then now, how do they move? Over to you, Mia.
So the pawn, for the first move, you can move a pawn twice. Well, not twice, but like two squares. But only for the first move can you do that. For all of the rest of them, they can only move 1 at a time. And when you're attacking, they can go diagonally, can't they? I think, but.
Laurel, do you want to add anything to that before I go over to Habibah to ask if she's understood that?
Yeah, I think she's got it right. They can only move forward once unless it's the first move. They can move forward twice, and they attack diagonally.
Excellent. Shanawa, anything?
They can't move backwards, is the only thing that I'd add. So you can't take someone diagonally behind you, or they can only take from the side anyways. But you can't go backwards in any way.
Absolutely. Also, the pawns can't move onto a square which has got another piece directly in front of them. They can't jump over, and they have to stop if there's another piece directly in front. It attacks forward and to the side if that is an opponent's piece. Okay. So, Habibah, does that make sense in terms of how the pawns move forward?
So I have a question.
Yeah, cool.
In your first move, you can move 2 squares. Can you attack and move 2 squares diagonally? Or can you only move 2 squares forward?
Yeah, only 2 squares forward. If you're attacking, you can only move onto the square that you're attacking. So if your opponent is on the square, which I'm drawing a circle around, you can take it. If it's on this square, you can't.
And can you go on any square? It doesn't have to be your color, right?
Yeah, so they're on all different colors, as you can see. And they just move forward until they get to the very end.
Okay.
When they get to the very end, something happens. So now what happens when it gets to the end?
You get pawn promotion, meaning you can change your pawn into something else. Say, as you can see there, either a rook, a knight, a queen, or a bishop. But I think what you said was you mostly promote to the queen, or was it the knight?
Yeah.
Yeah, the queen or the knight, because they're the most useful pieces.
Now, Laurel, why would you promote to a knight rather than a queen?
So in most cases you would do the queen, but in some situations you might want to do the knight because the knight is the only piece that can go over another piece. So if like you was to be in a position where a knight would put the enemy into checkmate, then you would choose the knight. Other than that, you would use the queen.
Excellent, that's very good. Habibah, any questions on if a pawn gets to the end?
So a knight can move over any piece, but
And we're going to talk about that in a minute.
can't. Okay.
We'll talk about how they move in a second.
Okay.
So we'll first start with the one in the bottom corner. Mia, can you explain how that moves?
So the rook or the castle, it can move straight or it can move horizontally or vertically, but it can't go diagonally in any direction, and it can't jump another piece, can it? It has to stop.
Correct. Now, how does the knight move?
That's the only one that can jump a piece, isn't it? That's the only one that can go over another piece, and it moves in like an L shape, in whichever direction. So it will move 2 pieces one way and then one another way, or it can go one way and 2 another, basically. But it will always make like a long L shape.
Excellent. Shanawa, do you want to add anything to that?
I think that you've got most of it, Mia. You can move in an L shape in any type of way. If I can explain it correctly, you can move 2 to the side, or then 1 up, or you can move 1 to the side and then 2, if you know what I mean. So it can move from an L shape. Say you've got an L shape there. There's your horse there. You can move 1, 2, and then down. Or if you have your horse there and you wanted to move 1 square, you can then move 2 down.
Excellent. Does that make sense?
So a knight can go down as well?
Yes, it can move in any direction in an L shape. So as my colleagues were saying, 1 and then 2, or 2 and then 1. So if it's in the middle of the board, it will control the squares which we've highlighted in blue. What happens if the knight is in the corner? How many squares can it control? If it's right in the corner, like here, how many squares will it control? Laurel.
2. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. Only 2.
Only 2. Habibah, can you understand why that is?
Yeah.
With this one?
I have another question.
Yeah, of course.
So when it says you can jump over pieces, what does that mean?
We're going to show you in a minute.
Okay, sorry.
We're going to come on to that. Mia, Bishop?
So the bishop can move diagonally in any direction. It can go backwards and forwards as long as it goes diagonally.
Excellent. Does that make sense, Habibah?
Yes. So how many moves can it only move one square?
No, it can move as many as what it wants. You can see all the ones which are highlighted. It got choice, the option of moving on to any of those squares.
As long as they're free.
As long as they're free. If there's an opponent's piece, it can take the first one it gets to. It can't jump over.
Okay.
Now, a queen. Mia.
So I remember that you said it's kind of like a combination of a castle and a bishop in the way that it moves. So it can move in any direction really, but once again can't jump a piece, so it has to stop in the way.
Well then, exactly. The king, how does the king move?
It can move in any direction, but it can only move one square. So whereas the queen it's like limitless the amount that it can go. If it's free spaces, the king can only move once regardless.
Does that make sense, Habibah, so far?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, now there's some limitations on what the king cannot do in terms of when it can move. What's the first rule with the king?
Two kings cannot meet. They need to have like a square's distance between them.
Excellent. Okay. And then what are the other limitations to do with how the king moves?
I am not sure. Might
Okay,
need
so
to.
the first one, can you see the screen in front of me?
Yes.
Okay, so the first one, Laurel, do you want to explain what the first rule is?
It can't move into check, so you can't give up
just
the
add
game.
to that. What is check? Explain to Habibah what that means.
Check is just when you're in a position where the king can be taken, so you'd have to move out of check to stay in the game.
So it can be taken, which means it's in a square controlled by your opponent. So it's one of the squares which are highlighted. Habibah, I think you've got a mute. You've gone off mute now.
Oh yes. So
sorry,
can I just ask again? So when a king is in check, it means that a piece can move over it, right?
No.
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 Okay.
You know what? Can you explain what it means when they're in check?
When a king's in check, it means it has to move away, otherwise it will be taken by the other piece and the game's over and it's checkmate. So if your opponent's piece is moved into check, then the king has to move. It's forced to move to a different square. So if you move your king, I don't know, backwards, sideways, any way to get out of check, then you get out of check, because then your piece is no longer pinned by your opponent's piece.
And what are the three things, Shanoa, that a king must do? You've got three things, you've got three options when an opponent calls check. They're on the board in front of you.
I'd say you'd have to move out of check by
yeah, that's one. It's moving.
Yeah, you have to move out of check, take the opponent's piece of one of your pieces.
Yeah,
or I don't know, what's the next one? Block. Oh yeah, block the piece.
Okay. Habibah, we're going to go on to explain that, and we're going to explain jumping over what that means in a minute. Okay.
Okay.
In fact, we'll do that now. Actually, if we go back to the beginning of the board, so the board looks like this. Okay. So Mia, to start off the game, can I move my pawns forward?
Or any of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I move my castle forward?
No.
No. Can I move my bishop forward?
I don't think you can move any of them forward except for a knight, can you, if you wanted to?
That's correct. Okay. Habibah, that means that when you're starting off the game, the knight is the only one that can jump over. So that can go to here or here. And this one can go to here or here. Okay.
Was it a knight that can only go diagonally?
Well, they can go in any direction, okay, and so can the bishop. Well, the bishops can go diagonally, but the knights can jump over the pawns, and they can jump over any of the pieces. So
can so let's take one knight, for example. they can possibly go to 3 different spots above the pawns. Why can't it go in the black square above the pawn?
Because that's not an L shape.
Oh, it can only go in the L shape. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. So if I want to move out my bishop, Habibah, can the bishop move?
Not if there's a pawn in front of it.
Exactly. So which pawn do I have to move to so I can move this bishop?
So
A, B, C, or D?
B and D.
Yes. Excellent. So you're beginning to understand how the board is laid out. Okay.
This is a bit confusing. It's a lot. There's a lot of information.
There's a lot of information, isn't it? Okay, to take in. But Mia's only had one training session, haven't you, Mia?
Yeah, I've. This is what you're doing now is what that's all I've done really. So.
Okay, and then what is another move? This is called castling. Can you remember what that is and how it works, Mia?
Yeah, so it needs to be the castle and the king's first move, and there needs to be no other pieces that are in the way. And it's basically your king, isn't it?
But before you go on to what it is, there's another thing. Like you said, 2 very important things. One, castle and the king's first move. And you mentioned that there must be no other pieces in the way. What else?
Is it that the king can't be in check?
Yes. Okay. So the king cannot castle out of check or be in check once it's moved. Okay. Then now explain what check on the king side is.
So I think I have it written here. So on the king's side, to protect the king, you need to move the king twice to the left or to the right.
Twice to the right on the king's side, and twice
then
to the left on the queen's side.
Yeah, and then castle 1 to the left for the king, 1 to the right for the queen, and then they swap, don't they? It's the only time you can move 2 pieces at once.
Yes.
Can we repeat that, please? And also, you can move twice. I thought you can only move once.
This is the only time in the game when you can move twice.
Was when you're trying to
When you castle, it's called castling.
When your castle is next to the king.
Well, you have to say, I'm castling.
And does castling occur when castle is next to the king?
No, it occurs when you've got a king and a castle that haven't moved, number 1.
Okay.
Number 2, your opponent hasn't called to check.
Okay.
Right? And number 3, none of these squares here will be in check or controlled by an opponent's piece.
When you say none of these squares, which squares do you mean?
The ones between the king and the castle.
So the 2 squares.
Yeah.
So it's when it's the king and the castle's first move, when the king isn't in check, and when the 2 squares between the king and the castle are not in check, and they're free.
Yeah, if it's on the king side, or the 3 squares on the, well, the 2 squares as well, actually, on the queen side. That's called the queen side, and that's called the king side.
Okay.
And why would you want to castle Shinoa? Can you take your phone off mute?
Yeah, it's you want castle because it protects your king more, really. If you need to defend your king, it's a safer place to have it because you end up in a corner next to your castle, really. So there's less ways that your opponent could attack you.
Yes. Laurel, do you want to add anything to that?
I don't know. I don't think. I think that's all I understand of it as well. Just a better way of defense in certain situations to have your king in the corner.
Yeah.
Would you say it has less access to the king?
Yeah. So what happens is we go back to the start of the board. Now the pieces are right in the middle. So the king's in the middle, okay, and they can be attacked from either side or from the front, okay. In a moment, after we've done this, in our next video, I'm going to show you some openings and some way to defend the king, castling as soon as you can. And then you can see what we mean about why somebody would want to castle straight away. Now, lots of grandmasters used to always castle as soon as they can. I often don't.
Okay.
What I do in all my games is I wait till my opponent's castled, then I castle after they've castled. Laurel, why would I want to do that?
I think I remember you saying that you like to castle in the opposite side to where they castled. So if they castled king side, you castle queen side.
Yes. Why?
And was it so because it would build up in front of the king, and then you would be able to get around behind or something? I don't know.
Yeah, similar. Basically, I like to, because I'm a very attacking player. You only win chess by attacking, okay? Or you only avoid defeat by defending. But if you only defend, you ain't going to win. So I'm quite an aggressive chess player, which is why I used to win so many games for so many years. And I did that by learning some tricks. One trick was all grandmasters castled as quickly as possible, but I learned people's weaknesses. The moment you castle, you know where the king is, don't you? So you know what door to knock down. Okay. If they're in the middle, so what I do with my king, I always get into the position I can castle either way. And then wait till they've castled, then I do the opposite. Okay. That's just a little trick. What we've done, Habibah, is in another video, I gave some top tips, 10 top tips. And to Shanoa and to Laurel, they sort of make sense because they've played it before. They didn't know the top tips before, did you? Okay.
No.
But once I started to tell you them, then you understood why they're important, didn't you? But
Yeah.
when you learn from the very beginning to take on board them, you will win lots of games. And for most people who you will play, you will be quite a strong opponent with them. Okay. So now we're looking at castling. Is it better to castle on the king side or queen side, or doesn't it matter?
No, I'd say it's the furthest away from where your opponent is, if you know what I mean. As you said, we usually castle in the opposite corner to where the opponent's castled. So I don't know. Is there a better place to castle?
What do you think, Noel?
I think it would depend on the situation. I think so. I'm not totally sure, but I think depending on the situation, what your opponent's done, then maybe it'd be better to go on the queen side or king side.
Yeah. So what the main factors is where your pawn structure is. Do you have an intact pawn structure in front of the king? If you do, that's the best place to castle on. Not so much where your opponent is, because remember, especially if it's a queen or bishop, they can move quite a lot of squares, can't they? Now, you asked a very good question earlier on, and that was why do some chess books and professionals and masters talk about both the knight and the bishop being worth 3, but other chess masters talk about a bishop being worth 3.5. Let me show you why. If you look at how many squares a bishop can potentially control, what's the maximum number? 8. Right. With a bishop, what's the maximum number a bishop can control?
I mean, the maximum here.
Yeah. So how many squares are highlighted blue?
11.
11, right?
It could be more, couldn't it, if you were more central to the board, or am I just...
Exactly, right? So if you're in the corner, it's less, but the maximum that you can control is 11. Okay? And as Mia said, is in the middle of the board, you got more squares. So if you put your pieces towards the middle of the board, they are threatening and controlling more squares on the board. So that extra 3 gives you a slight margin over the other piece. So they're more useful to people when you're working out your tactics. Okay. There's a special move called en passant. Okay. Mia, do you know what that is? Can you remember what en passant is?
I remember what it means because it made me laugh. You told me it means "you shall not pass" in French.
Yes, that's right.
That just made me. But
Yes.
isn't it?
Do you want to call a friend for help?
So what I've got written down is if a pawn advances, take it if the opponent moves the pawn twice. So I can't even make sense of my own words here.
Well, yes, you're right. Okay, Laurel.
I think it is. So the two pawns, the one in front of the rook and the one in front of the bishop, if they was to both move twice, to the side of the pawn, then you could say en passant and you take their pawn.
Yeah, so Habibah, I'm just going to go over that, okay, just to make it a bit more easier. Okay, so the pawn has moved, let's assume that your pawn started here, right, on this home square, and it's moved twice, all right, to there. On your next move, you moved once, okay, so you are now here, okay?
Yeah.
Now, what your opponent can do is they can either move this one once or twice, yeah? Move that one once, or move that one once or twice, okay? Now, en passant is one special time whereby if your opponent, which is what Laurel was saying, decided to move either the A or the C pawn twice, it would go on these squares, wouldn't it? Either one.
Yeah, so it will be the white pawn is in between two black pawns.
Yeah, okay. Either one of them. Let's assume that it's A pawn has moved to there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it will be after one of their moves, not after two of their moves.
Yes. You're one of them. Right?
So it's just one beside the other.
Yes. So what the white could do is use this move called en passant, and it could take it. So normally,
and just take it?
Yeah. So normally they take here forward and diagonal, don't they? They still move forward and diagonal, so it would move to here. And this pawn here would come off the square. Because you've done en passant and you've taken it. But you can
Wait, so could that happen? Could that only happen if the pawn moves one square?
No, it can only happen if you move it twice.
Twice.
Because if it moves once, you can take it anyway, can't you?
Oh, nice. Okay. And that happens on both sides.
Yeah, either side of it.
So let's say we're looking at the white pawn.
Yeah.
If there's a black one on the black square to this left or right, or the white square's diagonally upwards, it can take it.
Yeah, if it moved, right, the bishop's pawn moved to here.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that is C1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It moved to C5.
Yeah, but if it moves to C6, can it not take it diagonally?
Yeah, it can. So it can either take it if it moves to C5 or C6. It takes
so
it diagonally.
There's four possible moves. There's four possible moves that the en passant rule can take the black pawn.
Well, no, because it only applies if you move it to the 5. Because
it
can take
and if you move
anyway.
it to the 6, you can take it anyway. Okay.
Yeah, so that's not called en passant. That's just the normal move.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So with the regular rule,
yes,
can you take a piece just by going into their piece if your piece has the ability to?
Yeah, so a pawn can take it regularly if it's forward to the side. So this pawn here can take this square and that square forward to the side.
I mean in the way that, like we were saying, the queen can move in any direction as long as it's free.
Yeah.
But it can't take other pieces, can it? The way pawns can.
Well, any piece can take any piece, opponent's piece, if they go onto their square. But the only difference with the pawn is only on that row for the white and only on this row for the black can they use that move called en passant.
Okay, I get it. So the queen can take any piece ever.
Yeah. Any
but then why does it say it can only move as long as the spaces are free?
Well, it can move onto any free square, but they take by taking the opponent's piece off that square.
So say, for example, we have a queen in, let's say, A3.
Yeah, A3.
Let's say it's an A3.
Yeah.
And then there is another piece in d6.
C5.
Okay, d5.
C5.
And it wants c5, and it wants to move to d6. Can it move
Yeah.
to d6 but takes
No.
the d5 piece?
No, it
It
would have to
can't.
take this piece.
So it'd have to stop there.
Yeah, and take it. Take the
Okay.
Laurel and Shanoa, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it's been explained quite well, really, isn't it?
Okay. Now, many people who play chess don't know about en passant and don't know about cashing. And I explained to your colleague that it's a bit like playing football. I don't know about offside. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we explain the en passant again. The move to that pawn forward too. So where would white go to, Habibah, if it's going to take the black?
If it wants to take the black, it will move to.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or
Right.
7.
If it wants to take the black.
Yeah.
It will move to. Oh God, this is.
Okay.
Right.
Mia, can you help? The white is going to take the black because it wants to use
Is
en
it
passant.
c6?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay, c6.
yeah.
So it kind of moves in an L around it.
Well, no, you say you move forward 1, but it sort of is an L around it, right?
Yeah.
But if you say forward 1 and then just take off the board. Yeah? Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Okay. And then you end up here.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we go over to check. Laurel, because is on mute.
Always
how do you-
unmute myself.
Okay, well done. How do you check your opponent?
You just need to get into a position where you can attack the king in the next move. So your piece is covering that whole the square that the king is on.
Okay. So Mia, can you explain what is happening here to Habibah, please?
Yes, let me just evaluate the situation. So are we saying that this is check here?
Yeah.
Is it because the queen's got a direct line to the king?
Yeah.
So she can just go.
Oh wow.
Does that make sense, Habibah?
Yeah. So is that would you say this the king is in check?
Yeah. Now, what does the king have to do now? Shinoa?
The king has to move or block. Because I
Or
don't think there's anything that
move,
can
block,
take
or
the
take.
queen there.
I can't take it, so I have to either move or block.
How
So
do
we're
you
gonna
block?
move
I
the two.
understand you can move.
Yeah.
You can
So-
move up, down, or to the left.
Well, the king can move. Where can it move?
Like-
Actually, Mia, where can the king move to, Mia?
Can't you go to anywhere that's immediately surrounding him? So like all of the squares that are like around him, but it just wouldn't be wise to go.
Well, the king can move on any legally free square. And
Yeah.
how many legally free squares are next to the king, Mia?
5?
1.
1?
Explain. Okay, Laurel, can you explain why there's only 1?
In this situation, there's only one, which is the one in front of it. Because if it was to move diagonally to the right, it would be still in the line of fire from the queen.
Yeah, because
But
Mia,
I thought a king can move up, down, or to the side as well.
it can, but they have to be free. They have to be
But they have to be
available.
free.
Yeah. So the 2 to the side, one is occupied by the queen. They can't move there, can it?
Oh, I was looking at the wrong piece. I was looking at the queen piece the whole time.
Oh, okay.
so-
Here's the king.
I was confused.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So the king can't move on to the ones that's occupied by these three, can it? And it's in check here, and it would be in check from this direction. It
Yeah.
can't be there either. Does that make sense, Mia?
Yeah, sorry, I threw myself off. I was looking at the wrong one when I was trying to think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Shinoa said it can block as well. How can it block, Mia?
Um,
From that direction?
could it? No, I can do that. Could it?
Oh, you can move a pawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Move the pawn forward 1. And that would block the check.
Could
Now,
you
would the
move
queen
a
take the
pawn
pawn?
sideways?
Only if it's taken. So the pawn here would be attacking the queen, wouldn't it? because it'll be, if you move the pawn forward here, what would the queen do, Laurel?
It would probably retreat, because if it was to take the pawn, then you could take the queen with your other pawn that's in front of the rook.
And why wouldn't I want to take the pawn?
Because then it's a suicide mission.
And the queen is with how many?
9.
And how many's pawn with?
1.
So it's not good value, is it?
So
No.
if the pawn moved forward
Yeah.
and the queen took the pawn, then it will give free reign for the king to take the queen.
No, this other pawn here, look. That
Oh,
pawn
not that
here.
one. So you know, if the queen moved diagonally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To here.
To here.
Yeah.
To block. Not to block. If the pawn moved forward, sorry.
Yeah. And the queen took
to
it.
block it. And the queen took it and moved to the
Yeah.
other black.
No, it would have
it
to
would be
move
there.
to the, it would have to move to the square that the
The pawn
opponent
was
is
in.
on. Yeah.
Okay. So and then what would happen?
So you'll call check again.
And then
of the-
okay, go on.
so you'll call check again, and then remember that the opponent has to either can move here, it can see if it can take it, and it can take it here, or it can
Oh,
block. So it can't block it, but it can take you.
well, the pawn can take the queen.
Yeah, any piece can take any piece if they are on the square that they are takeable, and that would be
Interesting.
defending.
Okay.
And like Laurel said, you don't want to waste a 9-point queen for 1-point pawn.
Mm. So if the queen wanted to retreat, where
Yeah.
would it go? Where could it go?
Mia, where can a queen go?
It can go anywhere.
Not.
If it-
Can it go over here to this square?
No, because it's not in its
Direct
like-
line.
Can it go in an L shape like a knight and go here?
No, if it was gonna go to the left, it'd have to just go to the left, wouldn't it?
So what does the queen move like?
It can go in any kind of direction, but only that one particular line. So if it wanted to go left, it'd have to go left
Any
until
one of these? Okay.
Yeah.
Or forward or backward to any
Yeah.
big basically.
but it can't go like it can't do what like a knight does and then go left and then up or right and then it has to just go one.
Yeah.
Can you choose how many spaces the queen moves? Like, for example, if it wants to go left, does it have to go all the way left?
No.
Or can you
only
choose
one.
how many spots?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got a choice to go that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, or that one. Or if it's going back, because always remember a queen moves like a rook or a bishop. So it can move like a bishop back that way. Or it
Okay.
can move like a rook straight. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Now what does checkmate mean, Mia?
Checkmate is well you've won, isn't it? They can't get out of it now. The king's gone. You win.
Yeah. So can you explain why this is checkmate?
There's nothing defending the king, is there?
Well, the
queen.
pawn's defending it here, but it's not defended from the check. So
Yeah,
why,
yeah.
Okay, so what are the 3 things a king can think about doing when it's in check?
It can block, it can move, or it can attack as well.
Yeah. So why can't it block from here?
Because it can't go past, can it? It can't.
Yeah, there's nothing to block it.
Yeah.
Why can't it move?
Because it can only go in the squares around it like that, and there's a pawn above it, and then the queen is there. So wherever it goes, it's kind of done for.
And why can't it take the queen?
If it took the queen, would it just get taken by the knight? Wouldn't it?
Well, it can't move onto a square that's check or that's controlled by an opponent's piece. So the queen is defended by the knight.
Can you repeat that last bit? So how is the queen defended by the knight? Why can't the king take the queen?
Because if the knight was on like over here somewhere, the king can take the queen, right?
Because the knight has a direct, like it's got its L-shaped line up to the queen, like it.
Yeah, exactly. So if you look at the squares that the knight controls, is this 1, 2, 3,
Oh, yeah.
5, 6. So from this position, it controls these 6 squares, yeah?
When you say control, what do you mean?
It means it can move on to.
So does having control of a queen protect it?
Yeah, having control on the square that the queen is on.
Protects the queen.
Yeah, well, it protects any piece.
Any piece. So if there was any other piece that had
any other white piece, yes.
So if the queen was still there was any other piece that had that could have potentially taken the queen, but because the queen is in a square controlled by the knight, it's protected.
If when I've got my cursor, there was a pawn here.
Yep.
Pawn would protect forward, to the left, and to the right. So it would be beyond protecting the queen.
So it's kind of like projected space.
Yeah. So if a bishop was here, it wouldn't defend the queen because the bishop can only move this way. But if that was
can a queen protect anything?
Any piece can protect any other piece.
No, can a queen? Because a queen can move in any direction as long as the spaces are free.
Yeah.
So then, if there was a knight or a pawn on 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say c4, would the queen protect that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a misunderstanding a little bit as well. Protected doesn't necessarily mean that you can't take the piece. You could make a sacrifice, but in this situation with the king, you can't take the piece because then you're giving up the king.
Yeah, and I'm going to go on to that in when we do the updates, and as I teach you more about tactics. There's 2 key things here which I'm going to talk about is when you get into middle games and mid-player games, you can do a sacrifice, okay? And there's something called gambits, and gambits are like openings, and they're like gambles or tricks that you can do on your opponent. And what you often do is you do sacrifices. So you sacrifice a piece that's got more valuable than the piece that got less value. And that way you can tend to beat people who are either better players or by computers. But what you can also do is you can learn about gambits and learn if your opponent is trying to entice you or induce you into doing something, or if they've just made a bad mistake.
Okay.
It's a game of strategy and tactics. Shanoa, what is this?
That's checkmate as well, isn't it? No, it's not, because I'm looking at the wrong pieces from being.
Can you read the writing on that?
That's a stalemate.
Yes. What does that mean? Explain to the people what that means.
That basically means that no piece can really move without having some kind of a negative effect, really, doesn't it?
Laurel, how would you explain stalemate?
So yeah, you can't move any piece because it's not legal to move the king anywhere in this situation, and you can't move the pawn either. So then you're kind of stuck there, and it just becomes like a draw, doesn't it?
Yeah. So stalemate means the game is drawn, and there's a number of ways to get a draw in chess. One, which is what Laurel was talking about here, is that the opponent is not in check, but they've got no legal move for you to do. So,
why are there no legal moves?
Mia, can you explain why the king can't move from this position?
Well, obviously there's a pawn in front of him. Can't go
Why
there
can't you take it?
because it wouldn't it put it in a bad position with the queen?
Well, no, it's defended by the queen. So do you know, like what we were just talking about, by how a piece defends each other? That pawn is defended by the queen.
I see.
And a king cannot move onto a defended square.
Is it just everyone is defended at this point? No one can really take anyone. Like everyone's.
Well, the king over there is not being attacked. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just really about the white, isn't it? Okay. So if whites go, white's not in check. So black has technically got 10 points on the board. White's only got 1 point. but yet it's a drawn game. Does that make sense, Mia?
Kind of.
Okay. Shinoa, can you explain a bit more?
Yeah, so
Why
it's
the king can't move? Why can't the king move onto this brown one here? This brown black square.
because the queen would take him straight away, then it's checkmate, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, if you see that the queen controls this diagonal line down here, the people like we were saying before, yeah.
Yeah.
And the queen is defending this pawn, right? So the king can't move onto a square controlled by the opponent, which means he can't go here, can't go here, and he can't go here, right? You can't take your own piece. So you can't go here either, right? And it can't go forward because that piece is defended by the queen.
Okay.
So therefore the game in this point is drawn. There's another way to get stalemate. Laurel, how else can you get stalemate?
I can't remember the exact number of moves it was. I think it was 15. But if you and the opponent can both move, but you do repeat the same move 15 times or whatever the number was, and then it becomes stalemate because it would just be an endless repetition of doing the same move.
That's correct. So, for example, let's assume in this game there's no queen on the board, okay, and the king was not allowing each pawn to get to the end so that they can grab another queen. They can just go backward and forward 15 times, can't they? Just walking around and around and around, okay? Then it's a drawn game. Does that make sense? Okay. Here is just how the pieces move again. I've just recorded that. So what we've talked about here is a very quick and basic how the pieces move. Questions, Habibah, and then we're going to go into an opening game.
I don't think I have many questions. I'm just trying to grasp the whole concept. Yeah.
That's absolutely fine because you're not that far away from Mia. Is she, Mia? Would you agree?
No, yeah. I mean, I feel like you've even picked it up quicker than I did when at the same point as you, and I'm not even far ahead, to be honest. Because it's a lot of information to take in at once, isn't it? Like it's a lot of numbers, a lot of stuff as well. So it kind of gets a lot of different cogs in your brain going at the same time.
Now, chess takes a while to learn, and when people use the term "a while," chess takes me probably 3 or 4 sessions to teach people. Okay, first session is what we're doing today, which is the basic moves. Then the next is about opening patterns. So I can teach people chess about 4 moves, right? I mean 4 sessions. Some people take a long time to learn chess. It took me probably about 10 months. And the reason why it took me 10 months was because I didn't have a teacher. I didn't have a coach. I learned by watching people, like looking over people's shoulder and then working out how it worked. And then I used to study grandmasters. And when they used to beat lots of people, I used to work out ways to beat them. And then when I'm playing ordinary people in my school and college, everybody thought I was truly amazing. I was only amazing because I learned from some of the best in the world. Okay, and those are some of the tactics I'm going to be teaching you. Okay, so that's all for this particular video. So shall we pause it there and go on to the next video? What's the timing? Do we know the timing?